Yeah, so in this short exercise, we'll try to get more familiar with the formula for producing GOR, taking into account these different volumetric definitions that we talked about earlier, where we differentiate between a surface product that's produced from either the reservoir oil or the reservoir gas phase. To do that and to probably and hopefully strengthen that fundamental concept to all of you, we made this very simple exercise where we're going to simplify this formula for a wide range of different fluid systems. If you're not familiar with the way we classify reservoir fluids, I recommend you to go to the introduction to the PVT course where we go through this in detail, or just find, for instance, a reference in the monograph and how that's classified. A dry gas reservoir, as we know, produces no liquids at surface. So that means that both of these guys down here, they're essentially zero. Uh, we also have no reservoir oil phase, so we're actually left with something that is VGG over zero, which then, at least to the limit, becomes infinity. And we know that the CGR, which is the inverse of GOR, will be then zero over time. The same goes for, or similarly for wet gas. We know that for wet gas reservoirs, we produce a little bit of liquid at surface. So we get still the surface gas volume, but when we divide, we then divide by a reservoir uh, or a surface oil volume from the reservoir gas, which is then, as we see, the definition for little rs that we learned about, or also this large RV that's typically used in a lot of the different simulators and so forth. Um, then for gas condensate reservoirs above the saturation pressure, we know that if at least if it's single phase gas condensate reservoirs, the GOR is constant, and we can then and there is no reservoir oil phase, so we can neglect essentially this guy right here and this guy right here, and we're left with actually the exact same expression as for wet gas, that the GOR is constant, and we have a producing GOR that's equal to 1 over the solution CGR. Very nice. For the black oil case, we get something similar. Then we only have oil in the reservoir, so that's the reservoir oil, and we can skip these two guys right here, and we're left with RP equals to VG hat O, and then VO hat O, which is equal to RS. So this is the solution GOR uh, definition that we have talked about earlier. And if we just flip to the next screen, we can see the solution a little bit more pretty for those of you who did that exercise and wanted to learn a little bit more about this.